Okay, so today we're doing soft hackles. I guess tan, cream, like a creamy tan, light colored soft hackles. And mainly we're doing soft hackles because we want to learn how to, there's two different ways of tying in your hackle when we do soft hackles. You could tie it in by the base of the stem. So here's the camera, I'll hold it, here's the I don't know if you can see that. So we could tie it in by the base, or we could tie it in by the tip. And it depends on how you want the hackle to splay out. Tying it by the base will kind of give it a real spider effect, almost like a dry fly, where the hackle's standing perpendicular to the hook shank. And by the tip, it'll give you a more swept back look. What I'm going to do today is tie it in by the tip. So first thing, we're going to add a rib. So it's a simple fly. It's a body, a rib, and a hackle. Everybody should have these, but we're going to debarb our hook. Always debarb. And I got my wire ready. Start with a little jam knot. And we're going to add. Now this is a number 12, and we don't have it here. Normally I use like a brassy size wire. It's just a little thicker. I think it just adds a little more weight to it. You know, we want to fish as close to the surface, but not on the surface. You know, you do want it to sink a little. Wow. Well, the light right here is kind of.
Your lettering is affecting the view of the fly.
Okay.
Pull your sweatshirt over your front there to make a dark background, because Erie County Fieldhouse is getting.
What's wrong with the Erie County Fieldhouse? This is
Blending in with the fly. There.
better?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we see copper rib. Now we've all hackled before. We're going to use, some of you guys have possum, some have rabbit. Do you want an absorbent dubbing? I've got rabbit here, so I'm going to take this out, kind of align the fibers a little bit, and we're going to just do a tapered body. I always do one wrap under the wire. Now this is a number 12. That's about the biggest size I tie. What's this time of year, there's a lot of these big cream Cahills, mayflies. And this is a really good imitation of the emerger. You know, and you're fishing this, you know, just under the surface. Yeah, that's terrible right there. Ooh. If you notice, I'm not putting a big dab of dubbing on the thread. You know, it kind of control your body shape better with thinner. And you build that taper up right about. So now I've left my common hook eye gap at the front plus another hook eye gap. So, you know, double the hook eye back. Now I'm going to make nice, even spiral turns here. Now, I know you guys kind of know the helicopter cut. I'm terrible at it, but I just did it, so. There you go. Now I'm going to do a little base. Still leaving that little gap, you know, hook eye's gap back from the hook eye. And we're going to select the partridge feathers. So there's different qualities. This is a nice big one. You know, the problem with real big birds like this is you get big feathers. You know, we're looking for a feather that's going to extend to the back of the fly. It could be a little short, it could be a little long. You know, there's a little bit of a leeway. And you're going to find the short ones towards the neck. But then you're also going to find on the back, a ways, you're also going to be able to pick out some shorter barbed feathers. Let's look at this guy here. So I'm about yay big, and I'll kind of go through here, look at the back. Now, of course, you're going to find the lighter feathers up front, the darker feathers in the back, or some, you know, some skins you buy are predominantly dark, some are predominantly white. And this looks good, but I already think I picked out a couple. So we're going to pass those around so you guys can pick them out for yourself. So we're going to tie this in by the tip. First thing we're going to do is pull off the fluff and get that out of the way. Doesn't leave us much to wrap. Next thing we're going to do, since we're doing by the tip, what I like to do is take my hackle pliers and grab the tip of the stem, kind of wet my fingers, and comb it back. Can you see that? Beep, 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 right? I'm going this way. All right, like that. So now we have a little triangular tip here. So now, why we do that? Now, why don't we just tie on the stem of the feather and wrap it is because it's fragile. If we just wrap it here, we have a good chance of that breaking. So if I grab the tip and tie in all the barbs, it's going to be a lot more sturdy and less chance of breaking. And now I just got to find my feather again. Here it is. So I've got what I want to tie here, and I'm going to clip this pretty short. And I'm going to tie this so the dark side's up, so the curvature is towards the back of the fly. I'll put that right here. Tie that in, and then just advance the thread a couple of turns. Now, you have a nice handle here, but I'm all thumbs, so I use the hackle pliers. And I'll hold it here. Now to get that nice swept back look, I'm going to hold this here, and I'm going to pull all the fibers back. Oop, and I broke it. And I broke it. And you know what it is because when I did tie it in, but I have a backup, right? No, I guess I don't. I had a backup. Okay. Let me find a nice feather here. I want this guy. And we're going to do that. Looks perfect. There's my tip. Cut. Advanced. And hackle pliers. Let's see if I get a little better touch. You know, you can't really pull this real tight. You will break it. So, let's try that again. Comb that back. Right. That's good. Don't worry about any stragglers leaning forward at this point. I'm just going to make 2 turns to hold that in. Go here. So we pretty much use that whole feather. And now I'm just going to kind of form a head on here. Hopefully, my eyes are pretty shot, so hopefully this it's a neat head. Show you one little trick here too is that, like, if you got fibers that are kind of, if you're tying this in and they're kind of forward, you can take the back of your bodkin, kind of push those, well, I guess not on these bodkins. On a smaller hook with a smaller eye, well, these are really small. You can, they make a little tool too, a little tapered tool that you can use it, it'll push that back. You can make a wrap a thread around it, and that'll push everything towards the rear. So I always do 2 knots. I don't know if you ever fished and you get like a knot that comes undone. Well, if you got room, it's not adding too much bulk. I always add a second one. I like durability. And that's it. Okay? So that's the sweat bat look. That's the standard, like a wet fly style. Now, we have one of those little clippy things. We could pass this around. Good idea. Now, we're going to do, I'm going to quickly do another one, but I'm going to tie in the hackle a little bit different. Now I got fried egg on my thumb. Okay. And I'm going to speed this up a little. So I tie these down to, believe it or not, size 20. But with the 20s, I don't use partridge. I'll use, Indian henback. I've got some really nice hackle where I can actually do a really nice 20. And those I tie in by the butt and strip one side because they're really full. Oh, God. Can't wait to get these cataracts out.
If anybody's considering buying their own hackle, don't buy the loose packs, because all that is sweepings off the floor. Buy a full skin, Hungarian partridge skin, if you're going to do it. We'll be ordering more stuff, so we will have it here, but if you're going to get in on your own, you're gonna go ahead and buy a partridge hackle, don't buy those packs that they sell. You get a bunch of, like I said, they're junk.
Right.
Absolute junk. But a good skin's gonna probably cost you $75.
This is new. So this is new. It was 58. It was from Hairline. It's pretty good, especially on the larger sizes. This was something we got, didn't pay as much. But you could see, I think this actually did have more than neck on it at one time. I think, when a lot of you guys first started, you would rip off, the feathers and take half the skin with it. This was another cheap one. So you could tell the difference. More, less. But this still has a lot of usable feathers. And I myself actually like a little smaller bird because I do a lot of like 16s. So I get actually more 16s. I've got one I bought from Tom Greenlee. I'm gonna say back in the 90s. I'm still pulling feathers out of that thing.
And the more quality you get, the more pliable that stem is. It's not gonna break and snap as often. They'll still break and snap, just not as often. You get the cheap ones, you're gonna go through quite a few before. I know I got pretty frustrated when I started tying these. I had some real cheap partridge.
There's a great book out by a guy named Sylvester Nemes, Nemes, on Saft Hackle. That fly, that pattern, that design's been around forever, but he has a definitive book on it, gives the history of it, and it gives many different patterns.
It's Sylvester Nemes, the Saft Hackle addict.
Right.
You're talking about possum and rabbit. What's the main difference between being a different animal?
Rabbit and possum, being land animals, their fur will soak up water. If you go with beaver or synthetics, it sheds water. So you want this to soak water, so you're gonna use a soft fur, because it'll soak the water, because this is fish underwater.
Yeah.
But there are times when you pull those hackles together, punch them at the top and put on float and fish it that way. The body is just under the surface and the wing is on the surface, so it's kind of just under the surface. Very effective pattern. It imitates drowned duns, it imitates emergers. If you tie it in yellow with a white hackle
I need a little more.
and put float on the hackle, skitter it across the top of the water when the sulfurs are hatching, just in little jerks.
But what would be better, beaver, or not beaver, possum or rabbit?
Right. Possum's a little more coarse.
Is that,
Yeah.
I don't have a real preference. I mean, I like the rabbit because it's easier to get. I mean, Possum's a little, you're gonna take a little more time spinning this, making a dubbing rope with the possum, you know, because but it really gives you a nice buggy look than this soft rabbit. For this fly, I've actually tied them on both. I actually will mix colors together. I take pictures of bugs, and
So she can see.
what's this? That's a little up here. That's better. Let's get this done. So this is a good color right now with these large cream Cahills that are hatching. Now, a little secret weapon I use, floatant. And what I'll do is on this fly, especially when they're on that emerger, I will add a floatant to the hackle and a little bit on the top of the fly and let that hang right in the film and fish it like a dry fly. And then when there's that other feather. When I get to the end, I will let it swing a little bit or give it a little bit of motion, but that's been deadly for me last few years. So I've got some hatches and some soft hackles I use that have been really productive for me fishing in the film, that I've added a little CDC tip off the head that I put floating on, and it just hangs by that CDC. And it's been, well, Mike can attest to that. It's been really dead, especially during the sulfurs. A dark 16 pattern, I tie 'em in 14, a dark 14 pattern, and when they're on the emerger, you know, when you don't see heads coming up above the water, you know they're taking emergers or stuff in the film. Oh, we don't want to do that. We're doing the butt. So, same deal here. We're going to show you the difference of it's a little thicker here, so I got to use a little bit more. Make a wrap just to stand that up a little bit. And again, this is definitely going to need hackle pliers here, and you got to be a lot more careful that you don't break the tip right below your hackle pliers. What I use on my hackle pliers is I've got some tubing that I put over the jaws, because you get these sharp edges. And if you're doing something delicate, you have a chance of breaking that quill. Or I know I got one pair that I really like that I took a file to and kind of took the sharpness off of those, but I still put on, you know, little thin piece of tubing, which I have a lot of because I tie a lot of tube flies. So now, we're going to have to be a lot more delicate with this. So this is in by the butt. This is, I actually think it's easier by the tip. But now you see how that hackle's splaying out? I mean, there's a pattern called, you know, this actually would make a great March brown right here. And there is a pattern called a March brown spider. So I get two here, and I gotta carefully take these off. Now I've got the option. If that tip is pretty much, if I can make that tip blend in with the rest of the fly, I won't even cut it off. But right now I will. And here's where, you know, even a little straw that you can like push this back, you make a wrap, and that'll hold everything back too. No, this is what we got. So I'm going to push all this back here. And I build a head. So now you see the difference. That other fly, everything was swept back. This kind of sits more perpendicular. It's your choice. You know, tie them both. The one you're going to catch the most fish on is the one you're going to end up tying. Again, if I want to fish this really close, and give me an old fit. If I had like a bunch of CDC, I would take that and tie that in like yo, you know, just a little overwing, you know, maybe half or a third of the body length. And it doesn't take much to really float this. It's been one of my top producers this year. But here's the thing. So I tie this more of a spider or, you know, tied in by the butt when I fish the river. For some reason, I do better if I go to Oil Creek and it's flat water, then I kind of tie it by the tip and have everything sweat back. It just, you know, the fish there are a little more picky. You know, this looks really buggy. This fish on the river, hardly anybody ever fishes for them. So, but they love soft hackles there. So, you know, this kind of stands out more. Also imitates the tan diving caddis, hydropsyches. When they lay their eggs, they go underneath break the surface film and lay their eggs. And this swung, and this would represent a caddis wing. And that's been a pretty good fly. So there you go. Any questions? Put on my glasses.
Further, I want everybody to write down a couple patterns that they want to tie in the coming year, so Dano and I can start ordering materials. We're going to select flies that you want to tie. So put your skull caps on, start thinking, and just pass. Well, write it down. Yeah. And so we can order materials, because right now, Dano and I, for the last 10 years, we've kind of run out of wanting to force